Why do 90% of historians agree that the fall of the Roman Empire was not a sudden cataclysmic event, but rather a slow, complex process that unfolded over centuries? When we think of the end of Rome, it's tempting to imagine a single dramatic moment, a city sacked, an emperor slain, a civilization wiped out overnight. But the truth, as most scholars will tell you, is far more nuanced and fascinating. The story of Rome's decline is a tapestry woven from countless threads: political intrigue, economic troubles, military defeats, and cultural shifts, all playing out over generations. So what really happened to the empire that once ruled the known world? Let's start by looking at the sheer size of the Roman Empire at its height. Stretching from the windswept moors of Britain to the sun-baked sands of Egypt, from the Atlantic coast of Spain to the bustling markets of Syria, Rome's borders encompassed a vast and diverse array of peoples, cultures, and landscapes. Managing such a sprawling territory was a monumental challenge. Over time, the empire's boundaries began to contract, not in a single moment, but gradually, as provinces were lost to invaders or abandoned due to economic strain. Maps from different centuries show the slow retreat of Roman power, a visual testament to the empire's long, drawn-out decline. The physical remnants of Rome's greatness, its grand arches, temples, and forums, still stand today, silent witnesses to a civilization that once seemed invincible. But these ruins also tell a story of gradual decay. As the centuries passed, once mighty structures fell into disrepair, their stones repurposed for new buildings or left to crumble. The slow erosion of Rome's infrastructure mirrored the weakening of its institutions. Roads that once carried legions and merchants became impassable. Aqueducts that brought fresh water to cities broke down, and public spaces that had bustled with life grew empty and neglected. The decline was not sudden, but relentless, like the slow wearing away of stone by wind and rain. The Roman Empire didn't fall from a single blow. Instead, it was battered by a series of crises, each one chipping away at its foundations. In the 3rd century, Rome faced a period known as the Crisis of the 3rd Century, when the empire nearly collapsed under the weight of civil wars, foreign invasions, and economic chaos. Emperors rose and fell with dizzying speed, some reigning for only a few months before being assassinated or overthrown. The army, once the backbone of Roman power, became increasingly unreliable, as loyalty shifted from the state to individual generals. Meanwhile, the empire's enemies grew bolder, sensing weakness and striking at its borders. Corruption, weak leadership, and endless wars drained its strength. The Roman economy, once fueled by conquest and trade, began to falter. Inflation soared as emperors debased the currency, trying to pay for their armies and lavish lifestyles. Taxes increased, burdening ordinary citizens and driving many into poverty. Corruption spread through every level of government, as officials sought personal gain over the public good. The once proud Senate became a shadow of its former self, its debates empty rituals rather than meaningful governance. Meanwhile, the constant threat of war forced Rome to spend more and more on defense, leaving little for infrastructure or social programs. The empire was caught in a vicious cycle. The more it struggled to maintain its power, the weaker it became. Barbarian invasions hit hard, but cracks had already formed within. The arrival of groups like the Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns is often seen as the final blow. But in reality, these invasions were symptoms of deeper problems. Rome had long relied on recruiting barbarian mercenaries to fill the ranks of its armies. But these soldiers were often more loyal to their own leaders than to the empire. When the Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 AD, it shocked the world. But by then, the city was a shadow of its former self. Its population dwindled, and its defenses weakened. The Western Empire staggered on for another 60 years, but the writing was on the wall. The real damage had been done by decades of internal decay. In the end, Rome fell not just from enemies outside, but from problems inside. The empire's leaders failed to adapt to changing times, clinging to old ways even as the world around them shifted. Social divisions widened, with the rich growing richer and the poor struggling to survive. The sense of shared purpose that had once united Rome's citizens faded, replaced by cynicism and apathy. As the empire fractured, local leaders seized power, and the central government lost control. The fall of Rome was not a single event, but a long process of unraveling, as the bonds that held the empire together slowly came undone. That's the real story behind history's greatest collapse. The fall of Rome is a lesson in the dangers of complacency, corruption, and division. It reminds us that even the mightiest empires can crumble if they fail to address their internal weaknesses. Today, As we walk among the ruins and study the records left behind, we can see echoes of Rome's fate in the challenges faced by societies throughout history. The end of Rome was not the end of civilization, but a transformation, a reminder that change is inevitable, and that the seeds of decline are often sown long before the final fall. So the next time you hear about the fall of Rome, remember, it was not a single night of chaos, but a long twilight filled with lessons for us all.